Hey guys, how's it going? I want to do a little bit of a background on this dialogue, the Crito or Crito. I might say it both ways in here. I'm not really sure because I've heard it both ways, Crito and Crito. I don't know which sounds more official. Crito. Let's just go for that for now. Maybe halfway through we'll switch it to Crito. So Crito, tomatoes, tomatoes. I don't know. Anyway, so this is one of the easier dialogues to understand, a little bit more straightforward. Some of the other dialogues are tricky because there are so many tangents. The Meno, for example, where he is trying to figure out if virtue is teachable or not. There's a fairly easy flow to understand in there, but there are so many different tangents that are taken, it becomes hard to follow. The Crito or the Crito, let's say Crito for the next 10 seconds anyway. The Crito is pretty easy because it's basically just one question, and that's sort of it. And so what is going on here is that we see the main characters are Socrates and Crito. And Socrates, if you have read the Apology, you know that he has been accused of being a bad influence on the youth and denying the gods. They find him guilty and they sentence him to death, and so he is in jail. This guy Crito, with one of his friends, has bribed the jailers, and he says, hey, if you follow me, we can escape from jail. So the question is it okay to escape from jail? Part of the background we have here, and this is sideways here, so let's see. The background on this is that, in fact, let me see. I think I can probably turn this around. Okay. That was sort of confusing. Let's try this. Hold on. There's a lot going on here. So if you look down here, all right, you'll notice that ethical dilemmas. There's a couple interesting ways to look at this. So we could say that in ethical dilemmas, there's a good action, like maybe it is kissing your wife, and there's a good result, which means that you are able to express love, right? So there's really no dilemma there because you're doing a good action and a good result happens. Or you could say, well, let's say you kick a dog, that's bad, and then the dog gets upset, which is also bad. Now, nobody is going to say you should do that. Okay, so the good result from good action, that's not really much of a dilemma. Bad action, bad result, that's not much of a dilemma. But the problem comes when we try to figure out what happens if there is, and this is the one that a lot of people will use as an example, let's say that, the World War II, the Jews are, hiding some Jews in your attic. The Nazis come, knock on your door. Are there any Jews in your attic? Well, there's a couple different things. You could say, well, it's never good to lie, so you tell the truth because that is the good action. Is telling the truth is the good action, even though it's going to be a bad result. That innocent people are going to die, but what deontology, and this is Immanuel Kant, would say that it doesn't really matter. The end result doesn't matter. Maybe it matters, but not in the way that you're trying to work out what should I do. You always just do the good action. Telling the truth is good. You just do it. You don't even think about what the outcome is. Whereas let's say that a bad action would be lying. You lie to the Nazis, but in the end, it's a good result because the people end up living. Well, that's good. And so utilitarianism, Mill, on the other hand, would say, well, ultimately the ethical thing to do is to ensure that we have a good result from whatever happens. Okay, even if you go about it the wrong way by telling a lie, as long as the good result happens, that is the only thing that really matters. Okay, I'm going to do a little flipping here. Let's see what happens. So what you have, and this is the old trolley problem here as a way of illustrating that, you have a couple different things going on. Crito is going to say, well, yeah, escaping from jail is wrong. That's why I had to bribe somebody. But it's going to be a good result. Okay, and so what we see in the first kind of section here is that Crito comes up to Socrates and says, well, look, here's the reason you should escape from jail. He says, first of all, your death would be a great loss. And, we can't replace you. We don't want to lose you. Well, that makes sense. Okay. And also, like, what will people think? As people know I've got a lot of money and I was able to bribe the judges and help you escape. And if I don't, oh my goodness, I'm going to look really bad in this situation. So, what will people think? That seems like a good reason for me to help you out, because I don't want people to think I just stood on the sideline while you died. And this reminded me of a song by 21 Pilots. My name is Blurryface and I care what you think. Okay, some people care, some people don't. The other major thing that Crito will say is that, the plan's ready. Let's go. All you've got to do is grab your stuff and let's run away. And, Socrates, you really shouldn't throw your life away, because by you just staying in jail, that's a bad thing. You're going to lose your life. Okay. So then what we see is Socrates is going to give a response to this. And first of all, he starts with this idea of, all right, so you are worried about what you will look like if I die, and people knew that you were able to help me escape. Is that a good way to run your life? And that's very applicable today, because, we would tell, you hear the mother say, well, if everyone else jumped off a bridge, would you? Maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't. I don't know. But Socrates actually gives a pretty good explanation. Should we care what other people think? And you think about, like, the quarterback, it's a play that, third down, 5 yards to go. Like, what do you do in this situation? Do you pass? Do you run? Well, one situation, you could have the quarterback just say, take a poll among the people in the stand, 100,000 people in the stand. What should I do? And you take a vote. Oh, 70% think we should pass. That's what we're going to do. Does the quarterback do that? No. Who does he go to? He goes to the one person who is in charge of him, and that's the coach. So you don't listen to 100,000 people. You listen to one. So Socrates makes a really good point. It's like, well, are you worried about what everybody thinks? Is this a good way to live your life, where you are always worried about what other people think? Or should you be concerned about what one person, and maybe that's you, maybe that's, or a person that you trust, a parent or a mentor or a teacher or something? That's who we should go to for making these kind of decisions. And then he lays down a couple ways to think through this. And he's, in 48C, as we have agreed so far, we must examine next whether it is just or right for me to try to get out of here when the Athenians have not acquitted me. So in other words, they said I'm guilty. They put me in here. Do I escape? If it is seen to be just or the right thing, we will try to do so. If it is not, we'll abandon the idea. So it's like, okay, Crito, let's lay this out. Can we come up with some good ideas why I should leave? And then Socrates is going to say, okay, we've been friends for a long time. I've been your teacher for a long time. And there are two fundamental issues that we always go back to whenever we try to determine whether something is right or wrong. These two foundations: number one, never do wrong to anybody, even when you are wronged, right? So even if somebody hurts you, you should not hurt them. Sounds a little bit like a Sermon on the Mount to me. It's like, even when somebody attacks you, don't return that, right? So never do wrong. If you can help it, don't do the wrong thing. And, hitting somebody is the wrong thing. Even if you were provoked, it's still wrong to hit people. And there's maybe a question, is Socrates a pacifist here? I don't know. And the second foundational thing is you always honor your agreements. If you agree to do something, you do it. That's sort of the foundation. And so Socrates says, okay, so now are we going to say to, city, you've wronged me. Was that decision right or not? Okay, so the city wronged me. They found me guilty when I really wasn't guilty. Was that right or wrong for them to do that? And then Crito says, yes, that was a wrong thing to do. It was not right to do. So, okay, so we're going with that answer. Okay. And then Socrates has a really interesting thing here. He ends up saying, all right, so I'm going to take the position of the law here. Hypothetically, this is what the law might say. Okay. So what's going on here? So from 50, we see to do so is right, and one must not give way or retreat or leave one's post. But both in war and in court and everywhere else, one must obey the commands of one's city and country, or persuade it as to the nature of justice. It is impious, which if you remember Euthyphro, that should remind us of something. It is impious to bring violence to bear against your mother or your father. It is much more so to use it against your country. So he's saying is that the law has said you need to be here. Okay. It goes back to, could Socrates have had a different sentence rather than death? And it seems like as you read the Apology, he did have a chance to say, yeah, I'll go in exile somewhere, which is essentially what's happening now, right? So he's going to stake a cape and he has to go in exile. But if you remember back to the Apology, he kind of says, that really wouldn't do any good, because I'm going to still be questioning people. I'm still going to ask people what virtue is, and I'm still going to be bugging people. So you're going to let me go, I'll go to another town, and they're going to throw me in jail too, right? So it's never, so you would be injuring your country if you escaped. And this is an important section here. So decisively, did you choose us and agree to be a sentence under us? So it's the law saying to Socrates, like, hey, you were born here. You could have left any time, right? But we have been protecting you. We've provided laws for you, right? So it was the law that protected your house. So if somebody came in and tried to steal stuff, we would have come in and we would have protected you, right? And so we've been doing this for you your whole life, thus showing that it was congenial to you. So by you just living here, there's an implicit agreement that you were fine with us, that you were fine with what we determined. Then at your trial, you could have assessed your penalty as exile if you wished, right? Like if you had made that argument, you would have been gone, but you didn't. And you are now attempting to do against the city's wishes what you could then have done with her consent. So, all right, you could have been exiled. You said, no, I don't want to, but now you're changing your mind. Well, that doesn't seem like you're keeping your agreement, which was the second major premise of how to live a virtuous life. Then you prided yourself that you did not resent death, but you chose, as you said, death in preference to exile. So you said it was okay, but now you're changing the line. Now, however, those words do not make you ashamed, and you pay no heed to us. So we basically did what we're programmed to do. We did it, and now you're going, I guess I don't want to do that anymore. The laws, as you plan to destroy us, the laws. Let's see, you heed to us the laws. All right, that's where that ends. And you plan to destroy us, which again, one of the premise is that you don't harm people, you don't harm anybody. And you act like the meanest type of slave by trying to run away, contrary to your commitments and under your agreements. Again, we said this is a fundamental law of how you are ethical, is you keep agreements. Down a little bit. First, then answer us on this very point, whether we speak the truth when we say that you agreed, not only in words, but in your deeds to live in accordance with us. Like, yeah, I kind of said that. It's like, okay, so now you just want to leave then, right? And then so something is interesting here, because Socrates is sort of going the deontological route by saying this is the right thing. It doesn't matter what the outcomes are. But you need to always do the right thing, which is obey the law. Okay, fair enough. But he also goes back, Crito is being a bit of a utilitarian by saying, well, I know the law says this, but that's a bad outcome. The best outcome is if you're free, you're able to spend time with your family, you live another day to bug other people about asking what virtue is, all that kind of stuff. But Socrates has an interesting thing at the very end. He says, well, okay, are the results really that good? Okay, because if I escape, you're going to be in danger because now you're a fugitive because you helped me escape. So now you are in trouble. I'm going to be a fugitive the rest of my life. Wherever I go, I'm always going to be escaping, making sure the law is not behind me, kind of like Jean Valjean on the run in Les Miserables. And you're proving the jury's right that you are a bad person, all right? Because, hey, he's, maybe he didn't harm the youth. Maybe he didn't go against the gods, but man, the guy is a escapee. He's a, he's a lawbreaker. So yeah, we were right in condemning him. And your children, right? Like Crito was saying, well, your children be great because then they have time with you, but not really, because if they're hanging out with me, they're going to live the rest of their life on the run. They're not going to have a really good thing. And you're not going to have a clear conscience anymore because you have broken a law. And he sort of ends it there. And so I think the really interesting thing about this whole dialogue is this idea that what is the right thing to do? Is it to obey the law? Is it to, at the end of the day, try to figure out what the results of a certain action will be, and then we go by that? Or is Socrates challenging Crito? He says, okay, I know that you are saying this is a good result, but is it? That's a problem with utilitarianism, is you have to assume that you can read the future, that you are able to prophesy in a 100% right way. Because it could be that you think, okay, that is going to be the end result, but maybe you're just rationalizing it too. Maybe you're trying to say, I think this is what the result is going to be, therefore that gives me a right to do a wrong thing. Like, I think the Jews will be safer, so I'm going to go ahead and lie. So you're, in a sense, assuming that you know what the future holds. And I think that's largely what Socrates is challenging Crito on. Okay, so anyway, that is a quick summary of this dialogue.